Hey guys, it's Rachel from TLC Inspirations, and today we're going to make a little embroidery hoop wall hanging, and it's going to be a you and me wall hanging. So we're going to use this ampersand, and we're going to use the words you and me. I have a very thin sheet of felt, and I've got a template I cut out. I just used my word processing software and created it the size and thickness that I wanted and cut it out using a craft knife or scissors. I've got a 9-inch embroidery hoop here. I've got different size needle felting needles, which I'll be using to create the ampersand. And this is my roving that I chose. I chose a roving blend, which I really love. I'm excited to use this. I've got my foam pad down here for safety purposes. I've got my needle tool, and this is just to trace onto the felt the designs. Embroidery needles and embroidery floss, and that's pretty much all I need. If I need something else, it's probably pretty standard and you probably already have it on hand. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my template laid down, but I don't have it pinned in place. If you need to have yours pinned in place, by all means. This is an air and water soluble marker that I'm using, and I'm just doing an outline around the inside and outside of the template, and that is going to be what we're going to felt into. Okay, so here's my outline. I hope you can see it. It's got a purple marker outline for the ampersand, and all we're going to do is we're going to use that as our guideline for where to felt. Okay, so now we're going to put our foam under the area, the work area. So if we start on this side, I'm just going to stick it under here, and I'm going to just work on one small area at a time, and we'll just keep going from there. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is tear off little bits and pieces of my roving, and I'm going to kind of make sure they're going in different directions. That'll felt better. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of loosely lay it in my outline. A little bit more here. And then I'm just going to kind of keep you can go in at an angle, but if you do it, make sure you keep your needle straight. So you can see how quickly that's going to start felting up. Now as we go, we want to pull it away from our foam pad so it doesn't dig in too much, and it felts a little easier. So, and you'll start to see where your bald spots are, so you kind of want to fill those in. So as you go, you're just going to grab little tufts at a time, and you can kind of lay them right over where that is and pull them in a little bit at a time. Spread them where you want them. You're really not supposed to use your needles to pull and shift things around because they do break so easily. So don't get in the habit of doing that. But when the wool is not attached yet and you're just kind of putting it where you want to put it, you're really not hurting anything, in my opinion. Never had one break for that reason, but I've definitely had them break for other reasons. You can see it's starting to take hold. Still really bumpy, still really holy. It's only been a few seconds, so we'll keep adding and moving our way around here. Oh my gosh, I love the colors in this. Okay, you can see I'm doing this little left part of the ampersand, and I've got really great color striations going through this, which makes me really happy. It's still in the preliminary stages of felting. The needle felting, the more that you do it, the tighter that it gets, the smoother that it gets. If you find that you're developing a lot of holes towards the end, you can switch to a finer needle. Also, you can steam iron over it slightly, a little bit at a time, and that will help kind of shrink the fibers a little bit and smooth them out. Kind of my rough draft here, and I'm going to fill in the rest of these areas. And the hardest part is really going to be keeping your edges nice and straight. You can see I've done a fairly good job, but you really want to focus on that. And if you find that you're seeing a lot of your outline and you're not quite getting it to the line, just add a small, very, very small strands here, and just kind of twist them just slightly and just lean them up, you know, right up against there, and use your needle to work it into that space. You really don't need that much. We're talking, you know, a few strands here. Anyways, anywhere you see bald spots or anything, just add as you go, needle felt as you go, and just keep everything in small spaces at a time, and then just start branching out as you go. It's really fairly simple to do, and then we'll go back and we'll refelt over these areas and smooth them out. But I've got a little, this is where this little line is actually my outline marker, and then I've got this little tiny little bald spot. So I'm going to take the smallest little strand, and I'm just gonna kind of ball it up in my fingers. And I'm gonna stick it right in that spot. This is the great thing about felting, is that, you know, you have a bald spot, you made a mistake, a little random hair got in your wool or wrong color or something like that, and you can't get it back out. You can always cover it up. How cool is that? It's not like crochet where you have to undo all the rows and start over. You can just kind of cover up any mistakes as you go. Now, because you're, you know, wool on the felt is going to kind of stick to this felt sheet as you go. Just kind of use your finger and kind of like push it in and, you know, felt it into place, because you'll have some wandering strands as you go, and that's not really a big deal. You can actually trim them off at the end if you want to with a pair of small little scissors. This is where I am right now. I'm going up into this little part as well, so I'm filling a larger space here. So what I'm not going to pull out a ton. I'm going to work a little bit at a time. I'm trying to keep somewhat consistent in the way that I do this, so that the whole piece will look nice and consistent and smooth, and there won't be big globs of, you know, wool in one spot and not in another. I put my wool right up against that. Anywhere that I start, I always start with the outline first. And the reason for that is it gives me something to follow. And it's a lot easier to see when you first start. When you start felting up next to it, it kind of disappears. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my needle right up to the line, right into the wool, and just press down. And I'm gonna do that a couple times, probably every 1/4 inch. And that will pull my wool into that outline. And now you can see, I don't see my marker, but I see a nice straight line of wool. So now I'll start working my wool over here and making sure I have nice coverage. Okay, so you know that line I made just a few minutes ago, you can see that the fibers are pulling away from it. Now, you can fix that if you want to. You don't really have to, because like I said, this is air soluble, this is disappearing ink, and as long as the line is straight all the way down, you're good. If it's not, or if it creates kind of a bump in the line, then go ahead and fill it in. The reason the fibers are starting to pull is because, like I said before, the more you felt, the tighter it will get. Now that tightness is going to pull the strands inward where you're felting. So it's up to you how you want to handle the situation. Sometimes I fill it, but in this case, I really don't feel that it's necessary. But you will see this happen the more that you felt the same area. Okay, so this is like my rough draft. It's kind of my first run through, having everything mostly covered. I really, really like it. I really love the color, especially against this silver felt. But what I'm going to show you is that I still have work to do. Okay, in front of my window, if I hold this up, now you can see the bald spots I'm talking about. This whole area. You can see them. There can be like really small ones, or like this one is a little more significant, and right there. So we want to look that over through some light to help us figure out if it's hard to see, especially on a dark felt like this. So what I'm going to do now is do what I was doing before, only I'm going to choose a 38 star needle, which is going to be a little bit finer. It's going to pull on the threads a little bit more and hopefully kind of help me get this all the way felted. And then I'm gonna really carefully steam iron it down when I'm finished and see if that finishes off the look. This is the back side and what it looks like. So you can tell that we're pulling wool pretty well with our needles. It is very fuzzy and thick, so we're getting real close to being felted. We just want it to smooth out a little bit. Here's a close-up, and you can kind of see the holes going on. Not too bad, but we're definitely going to be getting rid of that, and you can see the edges look pretty good. But like I said, I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. Okay, so this is after some finer needle felting, filling in a little bit of the bald spots and some ironing. And I think it looks pretty dang good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the U part and the me part. And those are going to be really basic embroidery stitches. And I'm going to do the U over here and I'm going to do the me down here. And I wasn't really decided, but I think I'm going to do it in black floss. Black embroidery floss, and you can learn these basic stitches. I am not an embroiderer, but Bonnie is, and she has a lot of videos on the channel about basic embroidery stitches that you can use in something like this that is very basic. We're going to go ahead and draw out the lettering, and then we're going to go over it with the stitches. Okay, so all I have left to do is the hand embroidery, and I think I'm gonna keep it really basic and just do capital letters of the word U up here. And I'm just gonna freehand it, and then I think I'm gonna put the word me down here. So I'm using an air and water soluble ink. I have kind of a two-way pen here. This one's water soluble, this one's both. And because I'm doing embroidery, the line will just disappear on its own and I don't have to worry about it. I could also dab it with a damp cloth, but okay, so I'm just gonna kind of do it like that, and then I'm gonna do me along the bottom. I'm gonna wait and do me until after I have this embroidered. And I've decided that I'm going to use the stem stitch. And if you don't know the stem stitch, it's a kind of solid looking stitch, and I'm going to use thicker strands, probably 4 strands of floss, maybe all 6. We'll see how thick it looks. But the reason I'm using the stem stitch is because it's a little easier going around curves and in smaller areas, and it will still have a nice solid thick kind of bolded look to it as long as I keep my strands on the higher end. And normally floss will come with 6 strands, so I'm going to use at least 4, maybe a little bit more than that. And okay, I'm all threaded. I decided to use 5 strands, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do my away knot over here, go through the top of my felt, and then I'm going to cut up underneath. Bonnie has a video on the stem stitch. If you don't know how to do it, you come up. Obviously I have a very long strand here. You drop down about 1/4 of an inch. And you keep this little loop to the side, and you come up right in the middle of it. Just like that. And that's my first stem stitch. And I'll keep doing that all the way around, and then when I get to the end of the letter, I will end by going in from the front to the back of the hoop, and I'll come up on my O. Okay, so there's my little U. Pretty cute, stands out nicely, and makes me think that I really want the me here. Only problem is I made it a little too far to the right. So I'm just gonna dab it. All done, do over. Okay, now we're going to do exactly the same thing with this word. Okay, so this is after I have finished my embroidery, and I love it. Really excited to put it on my wall. And the last step is to cut off all of this back stuff. So let's go ahead and do that now. And there we go. We are all done. All cut and clean on the back. All the embroidery, all the needle felting. Cute little project. Definitely something you can make for your boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse. Also great for best friends. Would make a great gift. You can change up the design and customize it for just about anybody. Really easy to do, and you can really get creative with it. So I really appreciate you guys watching the video, and I will see you on the next one.